a 3-minute précis of what natural selection is, how it achieves...
Oh, well...
okay, right, away you go.
Okay, natural selection is a real thing. It's not a invention, it's not a false theory. Natural selection actually does work. Adaptation of organism to the environment around it, it is happening. We know that our animals, or as you would call them, species that have adapted to their environment. Like, you know, long hair, short hair in a hot climate, short hair, you know, long hair, and things like that. And they're well supported by the facts.
Explain the process of natural selection.
They're well supported. That's factual. I'm not arguing against it. But what
no, explain the process. How do they adapt? How does the species change?
Do you think I'm a geneticist? Do you think I got a doctorate?
But that's what I want to know. I want to know how much you understand about natural selection. If you say, oh, I'm not a geneticist, so I can't give details, then I begin to think that you don't really know your opponent's argument. Therefore, I don't have very much faith in your argument.
Okay. All I'm saying, I'll repeat again, natural selection works.
Don't repeat it, just explain.
Natural selection has limitations.
No, don't explain the process of natural selection.
You will never get microbiologist out of a microbe. No, will you get a horse out of a mouse, a rat, you know, things like that. These things.
Mr. Speaker.
That it can be. If you give it enough time, the things will happen on that scale. They call it, of course, macro evolution.
No.
Okay.
Sorry, there's no need for you to go on. That's just silly.
Okay.
To say, how can you get a horse out of a mouse? Of course you can't. But the very fact that you think that's something that needs explaining shows you don't understand. But thank you. It was about nearly 2 minutes, and it did take that long for me to be totally confident that you don't know what you're talking about.
No, it's fine. It's all right to say, I've made up my mind. Don't bother me with your stuff. It's all right, because we live in free world. Well, our freedoms are rapidly being eroded. I realise that.
Mr. Speaker, I have a question. Why do you criticise or negate natural selection when you don't even understand it? Why haven't you taken the trouble? Why haven't you taken the trouble to understand natural selection?
If you're going to be putting words in my mouth that I haven't said, then you've just discredited yourself, and you didn't want this DVD, remember? And
that's right.
Started shaking because I said you've just been discredited in front of everyone.
So why do you negate natural selection when you haven't bothered to find out about what it is?
No layman here, but you don't want it. You want to talk to laymen because you can tell you.
Well, why would you negate something if you don't understand it?
Listen, if you don't want...
Why don't you find out about a subject if you want to criticise it?
Okay, are we finished now?
I'm asking you a question.
We're finished now.
Why would you not talk about...
You do not want scientists talking about what you're asking about. You don't want it because you're scared. But you don't want to face your maker.
We asked you to explain it so we would know if you know what you're talking about.
Listen,
you have yet to do that.
Same as him, therefore you're discredited.
So if that...
You're not fair dinkum.
If that...
Fair dinkum if you take this, if you watch it. If you're not, end the story.
Well, you haven't watched it.
Thank you very much.
Excuse me, sir, you haven't watched it, Mr. Speaker.
One last question from John over there.
All right, look, something that I will comment. You know, you've sort of said, oh look, here's this DVD. If you don't look at it, then you've discredited yourself. Look, I can only say, I've been on the internet, I've been around, and one of the laziest ways of trying to win an argument is say, you're wrong, read this article. It's lazy, it's insulting, it's offensive. But that is what you are doing. Now what I will say is, if you want to stand in front of me and I'm willing to give you the time and you know enough to advocate for yourself, to advocate for a coherent argument, and not say, go and look at this article, go and read this, go and do that. Look, that's an unethical way of arguing. It is actually called the go-to argument. Don't listen to me, go over there and I've won the argument. That's what you're doing. But if you want to say stuff, if you want to sit there and say, look, this is what the case is, maybe I will agree, maybe I won't, but I'll actually listen to you. If you want to say, look at this bloody DVD, I'll say no. It's an unethical way of arguing.
That's the best John's ever done. That's really great. Yeah.
What if I bring a laptop computer and pop that in and hit you with it?
Didn't you hear what he just said? Didn't you listen to anything he said?
Well,
thank you very much. Thank you very much.
You got to give him a hand. He's the first time ever up. So
all right, well, thank you for actually saying